morning again to everyone. I'm Tom Parsley. I'm elder in our church, and I think I may be the only member of the council that's actually here today. So I'm going to run through some slides. We had a council meeting, and as Pastor said, we made some adjustments in the budget, which you'll see, and just run through all the reports briefly, so you just kind of see where we're at. Program-wise and financially. So go ahead with the next slide. Or two. Go ahead there. So this is our current council for those of you that have not been privy to the knowledge. Everybody's up there. We have one vacancy right now, and the way things are, we just sort of filling the evangelism role as a group. You'll see all the officers there. We're doing a very good job of running things, considering that a lot of this is done remotely. And everything's working well. These are the people that are working behind the scenes to make our church work, and so wanted you to be aware of that. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to run through the various programs quickly. Go ahead to the next one, the outreach. So right now, we are still active with our food pantry. It's been going on, I think, almost a year. Is that correct, Pastor? Pretty close? Maybe more than a year, yeah. And while it's tailed off just a bit, we still have a dozen to 15 or more families every Sunday that come by for food. That has been a blessing for the community and a blessing for us. And for all those at work, there's Steve in the back. He does a yeoman's job working here. And if any of you'd like to help pass out the food on Sundays, I think we still have a couple vacancies if people would like to serve. Just speak to Pastor or I after service. And I think the comments there serve the community. We're a little church, but we're having a big impact. And we're generating about $150 a week worth of food and donations. And we actually have community volunteers. High school students come and help pass out the food as part of their public service requirements that they have in school now. And so that's been a blessing as well for both them and us. Go ahead to the next one. Our summer ministry plans, you'll see later, we've had to bob and weave a lot on activities because of the COVID. This is one that is, as Pastor's given you some background before, a gentleman, Ron Gastini, that does this on Wednesday this coming week. And it's very interesting what he does with teaching you about how to make movies and the background and some history. And as Pastor says, it's very fascinating, and Ron does a tremendous job with it. So encourage you to try to take part in that if you can. Next slide. We're getting ready for one of our big events for the year, the Rummage Sale. My car is loaded in the back again today. We're dumping off stuff for the Rummage Sale, and I know other people have been doing that. This is going to be our first event where the public is actually invited generally since the COVID shutdown. So it'll be interesting to see. We're anticipating a pretty large crowd, but weather could change on Saturday. You just never know, but we're going forward with it regardless. And if you have donations, you haven't made those, please. You have this week to do it yet, so go ahead and next week, I guess, too. So we have 2 weeks. Those would be welcome. Just put them in the back of the church fellowship hall there. Next one. Okay, here's our events. The ones that are scratched out are the ones that we weren't able to do. So you can see that best laid plans of our church here, we had to adjust to the conditions and what's going on in our world. And we do have the Rummage Sale as the next thing on the list. Go ahead to the next one. And then here's some things that we're looking forward to for the remainder of the summer. Get back on the cookout deal. That's always been a favorite of the area. We generally draw a lot of families for that. I think there's a food theme that runs through a lot of what we do. Yeah, Pastor.
Those dates are not set in stone.
Correct.
So just,
Right.
yeah, they are subject to change, or if you have conflicts or a suggestion, or
Right.
I just wanted to put some dates on the calendar.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is that this food theme speaks to a need in the community that still exists. There are people that are hungry. It's amazing. You know, we live in a country that's so blessed, yet all it took was this COVID thing and a few other activities to point out that that's a fragile relationship between food and starvation in our world. And it's a very necessary thing for us to be involved in. We all feel this very deeply as a big ministry. Yes?
Tom is absolutely right about the food. People are also lonely.
Yes.
And if you've never been to one of these events, just come and eat a burger and talk to somebody.
Right.
Because people, it's just starving it's awesome.
Yes. Okay, and then you can see the rest of the events that we're tentatively planning for the year. We'll just see how things go. Next slide. Okay, you can see a number of activities down there that are highlighted. The ones that haven't been, that we weren't able to do. Most recent was Cinco de Mayo Sunday. We weren't able to do that, and the chili cook-off. Yes?
Just about the soccer camp, Governor Cooper is still mandating masks in schools and in camps.
Yes.
And who knows what the future will hold with masking, and so, but we're not going to do a camp with children in 90-degree heat outside. That's just not wise. So
Yeah. All right, next, anyone have any questions on the activity list before we move on? If not, go ahead to the next slide. Okay, this speaks to the use of technology for outreach in our church. And Pastor, I'll let you talk to that a little bit.
Well, and so we don't
do all of these. Okay. And we do a touch of them. And what I want you to understand is that this is an enormous amount of work if all of this was being done. And what we have had is members step up and say, hey, I want to do Twitter. Hey, I want to do the comment box on a Sunday morning. So if you're online, Star Bethlehem Lutheran Church, there's a wonderful woman named Katrina Jacober who handles that and does it faithfully every Sunday and does an awesome job. So if you want to do one of those, just say, hey, I want to do that. Or say, how can I help? And then we'll just point you in the right direction. And just doing that one, it may not seem like a lot, but for any one person to do it all, it's a full-time job. So
yeah, this is a menu of options for our church. We have the ability to do any and all of these things if people want to volunteer to help do them. That's basically what it boils down to. So again, you speak to a member of the council or pastor if you have some interest in one of those. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. We have currently we have 4 very active Bible study programs going, and including the after service Bible study we have every Sunday, but today obviously we didn't because of the meeting here. We use Zoom during the week, except for the Sunday after service one, and that's worked extremely well. And I encourage those of you that haven't tried that to plug in. It's very, it's good. It allows you to reestablish contact with the congregation, people that you haven't been able to see much of, and catch up on that. There's always a little social time built into it. So it's been a very, very strong program. We have lots of folks that are taking part in that, and that's great. Go ahead to the next one. The midweek Bible study is another one, a Zoom, and that'll continue to be Zoom as we go forward, a Zoom meeting, just because of ease of, you don't have to transport yourself from wherever you live to church for a Wednesday night Bible study. Those of you that have families, that's somewhat of a hardship. So being able to Zoom it from home is a good way to, pop in on the Bible study and get into God's Word in a very friendly environment. Okay, and go on to the next one. Ladies group, it's been a strong program for a number of years. Linda Jacober has just done a wonderful job with that, and Pastor keeps the group going, and it's been a worthwhile enterprise for you ladies that haven't taken part in that. That's an opportunity for you to again have a very comfortable way to get into studying God's Word with a group of friends. And we talked about the Sunday Bible study, and that's always something that happens right after service. Pastor, is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Those have been really fun just because we've been able to get a little deeper into areas that we don't normally.
Yeah.
We're doing all Advent prophecies, but I don't get to spend 10 minutes on one Advent prophecy like you do in that class. And
Right.
It's
And we do get in depth on stuff. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, and then we've talked about that already, fruits of the Spirit. And then this is just your options. And we had a suggestion this morning in the council meeting. I thought it was an excellent one, to put the links for where you can get access to these various programs to plug in yourself at home. And that will be done and made available to everybody on the website. So, all right. Next one, go ahead. The Sunday school numbers our dates are right here. We're getting ready to close for the summer, and then we'll start up again in August, end of August. And Kristen Schneider's done a wonderful job with this program, and she'd like to say something, so we'll let her. Pardon? Oh. And we have two potential confirmands that are going to be, or are presently doing the online curriculum. They have a new one that's very student-friendly, I guess is a good way to put it. And Pastor has the information on that for anyone that's interested in more. Okay, here's Pete's report. I don't know if you've noticed, if you walk around the grounds and inside building a little bit, you'll see a lot of things that have been changed, fixed, improved. Pete does it quietly, seamlessly, and out of the love for his Savior, I might add, all of it. And this is just a list of some of the stuff that has been going on. I think if you look down to be fixed pews in the altar stone wall, that is something that we have discussed about having the pews upholstered. The council has approved that, and we'll be notifying the bidders, and there's a slide on that. But I wanted to point out that the things that Pete has done, we had an appraisal from our lending institution come out. They come out periodically to look at your property and make sure that it's still worthy of the appraisal. Ours has gone up $300,000 because of Pete's work. I just want you all to know that. So the next time you see him, be sure to thank him. He's doing a wonderful job. Anything else, Pastor, on that? Okay. Briefly on the elders' report. Our in-person worship numbers are been fairly steady around 33. Today we had 29, which is, in the ballpark. Our online views have been very strong. As pastors mentioned many times before, a view can be somebody turning it on for 30 seconds and getting off. We don't have a way of seeing, except for the minutes, consistently how many people are there. So that's what we use. It continues, and it's done behind the scenes, but I thought you all need to know that between Pastor and I, we tend to spend a lot of time following up with shut-in families, medically in need families, people in our congregation, people that we are not members of our congregation that need spiritual guidance. This goes on regularly, just behind the scenes, so you know that it is. Some of you have been part of that, so you know. And that's part of our ministry here as well. We just kind of do that quietly behind the scenes. Okay, and here's the numbers on the communicants and baptized. We're at 101 communicants and 137 souls in the congregation right now. And there's been a lot of cleanup of the numbers, but we talked about that this morning. We have a a list that's twice as long, I guess, is that right, Pastor, of names that we have on the list that are inactive or deceased or whatever, that we still have some level of except for the deceased people, we have some level of contact with. So that's a good number. It's trending up. That's what I wanted to say there. And again, reach out to us if you know someone that's in need and needs to be contacted, or it needs a friend, needs some uplifting, somebody to talk to, any of that. That's what we're all about at Star Bethlehem, and we want to make sure that we don't miss people that are obvious. So, okay, I think, is that it? Oh, yes, I mentioned we're in the pews. So, obviously, if you walk around the church and look at the pews, you see the frayed edges and frayed and stained upholstery. This has been a long discussion that we've had with what to do about that. We now are in agreement to have the pads reupholstered, the seats reupholstered. We've selected a bidder out of a number of bids that we took. This one seemed to be the most competent and the best price combination. And we, I guess, 1.5 weeks, Pastor, is that the work time basically that he's given us as an estimate? Now that's subject to change. If you know contractors and their work, sometimes things happen that they don't anticipate. But here I think we're pretty solid with 1.5 to 2 weeks to get that done. We'll start that at a certain period in time, but I guess the next stage is get some samples of splotches of upholstery to pick from. Next slide. So we have a $10,000 savings account reserve that we want to maintain as a church. It's like an emergency fund. Most of you have that in your own personal accounting numbers at home. So we'd like to have that number. We're also have suggested have a fund drive. Now there's a spot on the giving page where you can designate some money for this fund to replace to reupholster the pews. We're going to run that through the end of August, and we'll be talking about that again, reminding it. It is on our website, so under the giving page, if you want to designate, just designate it's for the pew repair. And that's the form that you can online, just so you see what it looks like. I'm sorry it's kind of small, but okay. Now the next part is the numbers. Some of you may be aware that CEF has raised CEF is our mortgage company that we have our loan through for the building. They raised our mortgage by $700 per month based on our financial situation and other factors that they have to use with the whole synod on loans and everything. That number has caused us to have to readjust our budget. And we do have the pew repair quote, and that's factored into this budget adjustment. And then the revenue line is going to be adjusted to reflect the current giving rate that we have as a congregation, which leads me to the numbers, which are coming up next. So this is the approved 2021 budget that the congregation has voted on, and we were running a little negative budgeting. That's not uncommon. It's not something you want to see, but we think we've been able to manage for a number of years doing this, and this is because of the pew upholstery and some other issues that we're going to need that. So now the new budget with what's going on has been adjusted for these numbers to be more realistic, and this is what the new ones are. So there's a slight difference in there. We just, for numbers, to make sure we're accounting properly, we want to make sure that the congregation was aware of that. I had suggested, since the congregation voted on the old budget, that we need to have a vote on the new budget And we'll do that at the next opportunity we can, 2 weeks. Usually we have to have 2 weeks from the time we make notice of that. So that'll be on the budget, on the voting up in 2 weeks, which is the end of the month, Memorial Day weekend. So we'll just have to do whatever people that show up. So, and here's our current balances. We've been holding pretty steady and are growing slightly in the savings, and that's good. Remember, we want to maintain that $10,000 balance in there at all times. And then the pews are about 17, so we can take 10 of that, and we need 7 more hopefully out of offerings, special offerings. That's the idea and the plan. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom, for taking that. I didn't hear any questions, so I have no other announcements. Just looking at everybody, I don't think I missed anything. So may God give you all a blessed week. Oh, there's donuts, yes. If you're here in person, there are donuts in celebration of the